Well, good morning. How's everybody? Powerful. Powerful. Okay, I can go home now.
That's all we need.
First of all, good morning and welcome to, this is weird, Truth Summit 2025. This is great. So first of all, I want to say thank you for being here. It's an honor to be with you. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Ken Harris, host of Truth in the Afternoon, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 on the award-winning 101.7 The Truth. I have a host panel with me today, but first I want to say thank you to our sponsors. They've been doing some great things in our community. First of all, our presenting sponsor is OneMKE. Where'd she go? Where's Maddie? Have to say hi to Maddie. And she doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be up here talking in a few minutes, but she doesn't know that, so we'll keep that as a secret. If you don't know about OneMKE, they're a movement dedicated to uniting Milwaukee through collaboration, community pride, and civic engagement. When I talked to her on the air, I didn't know they did as much as they do. They hold Milwaukee together. You know, sometimes we look at politicians and we look at community leaders, but OneMKE is that one-stop place where you can get whatever information and direction you need. So make sure you stop by the table and see them today. See this face? I'm watching you. Go stop by the table. All right? All right. Next, we have cousin subs. So later in the day, we'll have some nice cousin subs for us to partake as we go through our
Cousin sub of the day. Sub of the day.
Leave it to Homer. We've also got Versity, a leading healthcare organization specializing in blood donation research, transfusion medicine. They've done some great things here in the community over the past few decades, and so we're going to talk about them. They've got a few events coming up we're going to cover, so make sure you check them out as well. I want to say, more importantly, thank you to MATC. You know, education in our community, that's one of the topics we're going to be having today. And education, I believe, in any community is a barometer of what the future holds. And so we've got MATC here. We might even surprise him and bring him up to the mic and have him say a few words and talk about the great things they're doing. But most of all, more than anything, more than anybody, I want to thank our teammates at Good Karma Brands. You all have done an absolutely stellar job, a phenomenal job, and I just wanted to publicly say thank you. You can actually, you can clap for Dylan, I got you. We're good. All right. So, moving forward, I got some guys here with me who kind of hang out every now and then, that I see every now and then at 101.7 The Truth. One guy needs no introduction, Tory Lowe from the Tory Lowe Show. I'm gonna skip the next guy because he just always hollers and argues with me every time we talk about it.
They in beef.
He be talking nonsense about, anyway. That's all right. You said you weren't gonna abuse the elderly, so
I'm not
gonna
abuse the elderly in front of all these people today.
See, y'all see what I got to put up with. Y'all see what I got. Kyle Wallace, Truth to Power, and our newest addition. Why? I don't know, because I've been arguing with him for how long? Damon, like
Been about 5-6 years.
5 or 6 years. Yeah. He just walked up to me and started arguing with me. I didn't know who he was. Damon Ellzey. And of course, the legendary Homer Blow. But see, I found out Dame is legendary too. So
Thank you.
So I'm trying.
He said put some respect on my name, Dr. King.
You don't remember that. I'm gonna start talking about sometimes when. Okay, no. We go way back. It's a pleasure to be here. So we want to start out with looking at some things that have been happening in the city of Milwaukee. Even in the past 24 hours, 48 hours, we've seen some things that have occurred that have been, for me, frightening. I'm gonna start out with Tory Lowe, of course, because the shooting at the high school, West Allis had a school locked down the same day. You know, things are starting to escalate in this community, and I wanna get their input on where Milwaukee is headed, starting with Tory.
Yeah, that was very disturbing to see just how we have to definitely, I always say keep your head on the swivels, because it's affecting everybody. It's affecting the youth, it's affecting the regular citizens and our elders. So what I always push is that we need to really push for a huge parent movement to get involved back in the public school system, and making sure that we check on our children and the things that they're doing online, and try to talk to them. And I think that that's going to take a community effort to get back to just being at the kitchen table with our family members and just sitting down and talking again. I think technology is starting to affect what we see, and many times then you have the traditional ideas of just people going to be bullied. A teacher just called me the other day to talk to a school about bullying at the Hope School. So I think that we have to make sure that we're vigilant as a community, and I hate to be cliche, but it's going to take a village. And when I say village, I mean, even if you create your own village, your own tribe, you know, it don't have to be everybody, but I think that right now we have to get back to us. I think we have to look at us and be a reflection of what we want to see. And this is very important going into 2026, because I think that we have become so individualized in silos that we don't look at each other as a village. I think we look at each other as people living in the same space. But my grandmother used to tell me when they were younger, the community, neighbors and things like that was way more involved in the lives of everybody. So I think that that is something that's missing. And I don't, you know, if we can, we have to get back to it.
All right. Homer, you know I got to call you out.
All right. So,
Because I heard you on your show. You were kind of a little disturbed.
yeah,
by that.
absolutely. And when we hear Tory talk about the village, I think one of the important factors is that we are the village. And when one is sick, it infects us all. It's why when you're hearing me talk about the fact that we have to come together and understand when people say certain things, be like, man, yeah, your cousin's messing up. I say, yeah, you're right, because I'm not going to disassociate myself from my people. And we have to look at it in that way. I see videos where people, brothers will end up filming a woman being harassed or just not right. Like people are really doing some crazy stuff, and all they saying while they filming it, instead of interjecting and saying, hey, brother, leave that sister alone. She obviously don't know you. She don't want to be bothered. They saying, man, it couldn't be my sister if that was my mother. You have to look at it as we are family. And in every family, there's some dysfunction that's going to be in there. But we have to work collectively in order to try to make the changes that are necessary. So when you hear about a shooting over here, you hear about a homicide over there, those things affect us all. Some people put themselves on house arrest. On house arrest, when you get off work, I'm going home. When you go to a club or a lounge, text me when you get home. Let me know you were safe. If you think about how house arrest works, that's what those people have to do. They got to check in. They got to let you know. You monitoring where I'm at. I'm telling you, you putting the 360 locators on your phone, so everybody, you know, you can send them your location. So we have to take more, and those people that don't want to get it right, we have to create our own community section to say, like, you know what, until y'all get it right. You saying you ain't getting education? We gonna make sure you get education. We got black teachers, we got black doctors, we got black lawyers, we got black law enforcement. We can police our own community. If you don't want the police that we have now to do it, where is our own community policing? And if we don't start doing that, we're gonna continue to have problems and trouble.
All right, thank you much. Dame, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are these. I look at it from a broader, wider view. And when I look at all of the gun violence that we have in our cities and the youth with guns, we're talking about what just happened yesterday with the young man being killed because he was getting robbed coming from school, is I understand we have the community needs to come together. Obviously, that's a given. but also we need to look at the proliferation of guns in our community. Let's step back and see how we got here. How did we get here? How did we get to this point where we have so many guns in our community and so many guns are readily accessible to the youth? We can say we need to change the way we are, and that's obvious. We need to change and have more respect for life in general. But I also think there needs to be a look at why do we have all of these guns in our community? Where did all of these guns come from? Like the misnomer says, we don't have any gun factories on 20th and Center. We don't have any, gun factories in the city at all. We don't do that. So how are all of these guns getting into the hands of our youth? And when we look at that, we have to understand the systemic issues that we have faced as a black community and the powers that be that have forced us into these situations. Now, we also don't have to allow ourselves to go down that road as
Right.
black people.
Right.
But the point is, those roads are provided to us. And every other road that we try to take somehow gets blocked. If something happens. So now the youth are just, I'm going to be out here acting wild. I'm going to do what I do this and do that. But how did they get that gun? And I think that's something that we need to look at, as well as look at changing ourselves, is how do we get here? What historically has happened that these guns are here? What historically has happened to the black community that crack was put in the black community? What historically has happened to the black community that these things that we all say, we know they're terrible, but how did they get here? So that's what I want to look at, and that's what I want to control. And I think we need to look at that and understand that a number of this is a plan that's been put in place for us to act this way, a plan that's been put in place. We don't have to follow that plan. So I agree with Homer in that regard. We don't have to follow that plan. We have free will, but we also have to understand the plan that's been put in place. And by understanding the plan, then we can know how to fight it better.
Last but certainly not least, the youngest of the bunch, Kyle Wallace.
Yeah, I'll answer the one about where the city's going, because I think your brother
exactly.
did a good job talking about that. And I think when you look at the city, I think there's a tale of two cities and two stories, right? When you look at the investment that's being put right down the block from us, you can just know what the emphasis is versus when you go that direction, there's a different direction that the city is going. And I just think about this summer when I was just having a conversation with Brother Chris over there about the shooting that happened in downtown Milwaukee. There was a state of emergency and businesses coming together to say, we can't have this happen. But then a child gets killed and we don't see the same state of emergency or what we're going to do to stop that from happening. And so it just, at this point, where I see the haves and the haves not growing even larger in the city of Milwaukee. And that's where a lot of my frustration comes from. So I think it's a tale of two cities where I think Milwaukee as a whole is going to grow, but the north side that I grew up on, that I love, I still think it's going to have some struggles with. There's not enough emphasis and investment and focus on how can we ensure that everybody in this city is growing and getting better versus the main focus being downtown Milwaukee. Because I'm getting a little sick of the emphasis of how beautiful downtown Milwaukee is, but I look at Capitol Corridor, Midtown, and I found out that Lowe's has been closed since 2009.
Where you been?
I mean, I forgot. Like, it's been that long.
Yeah.
We're going on 20
Yeah.
years, and where's the imagination for revamping that? So a tale of two cities is what I see, and unfortunately, the people that live in my community in Milwaukee are the ones that are going to be on the bad end of that.
So why can't we change it?
Leadership. Leadership has to emphasize that, right? Like, you got a mayor right now who's, I think he's a good mayor, but I believe the district he came from is a district where Midtown was at, right? And so
That is true.
So he represented the area, did not bring enough investment to that area and left the area, and it seems like he's forgotten about the area. But we're going to tear down 794.
You did go on a bit of a tirade about that the other day.
I sure did. Thanks to you, Ken.
Everything's my fault, by the way. So where do we stand with correcting people or making sure that they understand these things can happen? Because we talk about being about supporting the community and being a village, but then we complain when they get prosecuted and go to jail. It's always not my baby, but you can't do both. You can't complain that they're going to jail, but then they committed a crime and you want to stop crime. Like, which one?
Who you asking?
Well, I think it'd be accountability.
Just jump in.
I'll jump in. Accountability is, again, I don't have kids, so I don't have that emotional connection to my
You
baby.
just lock 'em up, huh?
So it's very different. But I understand that if your baby's doing wrong, the best way to prevent your baby, because I got cousins, is being a really good parent, right? Caring, being
Right.
invested in your childhood's upbringing. You can't control everything your child
Right,
does.
right.
But I do feel like the characteristics that were put in me by my grandparents, by my aunts, my uncles, my mom, my dad, the whole village that Tory was talking about before. So I think at a certain point, we got to make sure that we're holding people accountable. I know Tory had a young lady on his show probably about a month ago or 2 months ago who said, listen, I tried my best with my son. He's a danger to society. And so at that point, at least she's recognizing that and trying to get more help to assist her in trying to help save her son. So we need more people who take accountability for their kids to stop some of this nonsense that's happening.
So Dame and Homer talked about it. At what point in the past, and you as well, at what point did Milwaukee change? What was the linchpin that broke?
That's an excellent question. I'll let him
Because everybody has their own idea of family or kids or schools, or we blame everything outside the community, but nobody really takes an internal look to say, did we allow our parents to fail? Did we tell our children everything was great when it wasn't?
I don't think that we told people that it was great when it wasn't. Again, you have to want the knowledge. You have to want it. We can provide you on the award-winning 1017 The Truth, all of us, we provide you with the information. We give you the resources, and if you say, oh, I didn't know that. We had the breast cancer awareness, and they had the walk. And there were so many different things and hotline numbers that you could call if you're dealing with cancer and you don't know how to cope. Sometimes you have a great support system, sometimes you don't. Well, there's a 24-hour number that people can call that some people probably didn't know about when you don't want to call somebody else. We don't use enough of the resources, in my opinion, that are available to us. A lot of people tend to try to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. If these brothers got a plan that works, let's support it. Let's not try to redo this or redo that. And we gotta hold everybody accountable. That's why I say, unfortunately, if we really wanna come to some solutions in our community, and I'm saying the black community, some of our mothers and fathers may have to go to jail or prison. Some of your sons and daughters going to have to go to jail or prison. Your grandparents, your cousins, your best friends, because as long as you got, and this is a partner in the sense, but I always say, that one call, that's all. If everybody still got that person, oh, you mess with me? My cousins, they bout that. Well, your cousins are part of the problem. Those people that you're going to call to create and continue the cycle of violence that's going on in our communities are part of the problem. If we keep going for revenge after revenge after revenge, when does it end? So when we ask what is the solution and what is the source that we can do, is we have to let people be held accountable. I was so happy when there were so many, and me and Dame talked about it, I think all of us talked about it on our shows, when the situation happened on Mill Road, where the brother ended up losing his life. And people saying, oh, no, he didn't pistol whip him. The off-duty officer, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. He didn't have no gun. My baby ain't got no gun. He don't carry no gun. That high-definition 4K video showed that he did have a gun. He did hit that officer, off-duty officer, in the face, which, again, he ran into somebody who knows gun safety, how to use a weapon, and unfortunately, he had to lose his life. But the community was in an uproar against each other. They were in an uproar against each other. They didn't have to do it. They didn't have to do it. When you saw that video, how many people in here understood why he did what he did? By a show of hands. Do you understand? Did you see the video? That's why. We have to hold people accountable, and I'm glad that family came forward and said, you know what? After we had a chance to examine that video, our son was wrong. Our nephew was wrong. Our cousin was wrong. Our brother was wrong. And more of that has to happen if we're going to get to some resolutions.
So then what do you have to tell somebody to get, so that we don't have to be in that position?
Still me?
Well, anybody.
Oh, yeah,
We've,
that's
I was going to go
we've-
back
go ahead.
to the original question and,
All right.
and what you asked, how did we get here? And when did it change? I think there was a period, especially in Black Milwaukee, with even Black Milwaukee's hyper-segregation, that you had more, and we spoke earlier about this, you had more of a village. You had the doctor on the same block with the laborer. You had the lawyer on the same block. Everything was there. And I think we have to look, when I say we have to look at ourselves, we have to look at ourselves in that the best of us and the greatest of us decided to leave that block. We decided to leave and separate ourselves from the community as a whole.
But
And so-
why is that? Why?
Why did they do that?
Absolutely. Why did they leave?
Assimilation. They wanted to, white is right, I would assume, I don't.
Or
I would
maybe
have to ask that person.
Or maybe my car's getting broken into, my house is getting broken into, my children are getting harassed. Like
That's-
there's that side. You got to look at the whole
I think that's
equation.
I don't think that happens as much as people say that happens.
That's not true. I
that's a
worked in law
stereotype.
enforcement. It happened.
That's a stereotype that we
That's
place on
not
the
a
black community.
Stereotypes are true.
Dr. King, you
That's
asked
why
me
they're
a question.
stereotypes.
I'm trying to
And
answer.
I'm just helping you with some data.
Okay. But let me answer. Give my
We
truth.
do this all the time.
Let me give my truth. I don't think that happens as much as people say it happens. And I think people oftentimes, we have abandoned our community. The best of us have abandoned our community and left
That's
us.
not true.
I believe, come on, man. I believe it's true. Most of us, when we get money, where do we want to live? When we get money, we don't want to live in the black community no more. We want to live out in West Allis. We want to live out in Mequon. We want to move to Brown Deer. We want to leave the black community. When that's separated our communities, whereas before.
Why do you think that is?
Why do I live on 22nd Street.
I live in Sherman Park.
I understand that. So you didn't do it. I didn't do it. So why are we arguing for those that did do it? I'm not doing it.
It's a lot of people that if you take a poll, I think, Dame, unfortunately, more people would say they wanted a quality of life that they
Right.
weren't able to find in their community that they used to call home.
But why does
And-
that quality of life have to be out there with the white folks?
Be-
You're abandoning your black people to go live out next to white folks,
Because
and then
you wouldn't
want to
let us
complain
arrest them?
about how the hood is and how the hood is going to be when you left.
But some of the black people that we thought that we could talk to, we could be the village to, chose to disrespect us. And also the things that we were trying to instill so they wouldn't have to do some of those things that they're doing. So when you run against that and you're trying to say, okay, you need a job. Here's 8 different job fairs. Oh, well, I got a felony. Well, 7 of them are job fairs that hire convicted felons. So if you keep trying to give them, that's what I was talking about with the resources and the solutions. If you're telling them, look, I'm gonna do this, I got a barber, we've got G's clippers that will end up, and hopefully nobody abuse it, but he will have some of his barbers cut these people's hair for free, a child or a grown man. And so when you have that, we try to take away the excuses, but when a person's house gets shot up that's not into any of the violence and the crime, when people's sons and daughters are getting robbed and traumatized for the rest of their life, being shot, sometimes murdered, that is a cause to say, I want better. I don't want to live
So
around
you're saying
this.
that
Hang on,
everybody that
Dan.
has moved out
Well,
of the hood
I'm
has
not saying
had some
everybody.
traumatic
I wanna
issue.
chime
I
in.
never say everybody. I always
Hang on a
say
second.
I think that's rare.
I want to chime in. I get called to a lot of this stuff. I'm an advocate that I pick up the phone every day and somebody's calling me due to the conditions of the community, and we try to work together and resolve whatever the situation is, whether it's murder, homicides, missing girls, and stuff like that. I got to get that phone call. So as an advocate, I can honestly say that when I see this type of behavior, I got to go back to when we had jobs in Milwaukee. Like, anytime you're in an environment where you can't find living wage jobs, the crime is just going to go up. And I remember a time where Milwaukee was cracking. It was like people was driving Cadillacs and having fun, and there were living wage jobs on the north side. But then I started to see the jobs leave. And then when I was coming up, I saw that black people had businesses in the neighborhood. where I can go get a Snicker, some chips, and a soda from a black man. I don't see that no more. If I want to go get something to eat, that person don't look like me. There are some black establishments, but they're scattered. They're scattered. We know that. But what I'm saying is, when you have an economic situation where you can't get a living wage job, people are going to resort to other stuff to get the money. And what I started seeing was, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to be quick, I saw this flip from revolutionary to criminal mind, to the criminal mind frame. And it kind of crept in through the 80s, the drug dealing. All of a sudden, this guy over here who's a low-level kind of petty criminal was able to make $1 million on the street, which caused the revolutionaries to be like, oh, well, what's this? Like, he driving the cars now, he getting the attention, and then we started seeing movies like Shaft and Fighting Against Pimps and the Mac. And so people kind of switched to this criminal mind frame. Not everybody, but it was starting to like pollute our community with this, okay, I'd rather be a hustler, you know. And then you start listening to Snoop Dogg. It was a little boy on there when I was a kid. I want to be a hustler, you know. Promoting this type of mind frame. And then we started clapping for it. Like, we started like, oh, okay, that's the hero right there. Oh, he a pimp. He a drug dealer. Now those little bitty ideas started to grow in our community, and now I see that in 2025, I asked GP during the Pop Culture Report, I said, Blueface got out of jail, Max B got out of jail.
Yep.
It's a couple people that just recently got out of jail. Snooki just got out of jail, and they got 1,000 likes, and they like, oh, wow, salute. And I was like, okay, I'm not saying that they not supposed to, do that, but I think that idea have kind of became the popular idea. And so you got these kids, you're telling these kids, go to school, do your homework. The residents saying, don't break into nobody's house. But we're going to concerts. NBA Youngboy just finished a concert. If y'all don't know who NBA Youngboy is, he got the streets. He like the Tupac of modern times. Yep. And if you look at the people that go to his concert, these dudes masked up, going crazy. And he just made like $72 million off of his tour. And we trying to fight against this criminal mind, this criminal element, but it's being praised. And I'm not saying that everybody is doing it, because I always say 80-20. I always say it's 80% of the neighborhood that's trying to be okay, but the 20% is always highlighted over the real citizens that's really trying to make a difference and live in the community. So when you have this battle of good and evil, and we out here praising it to a certain degree, and then you tell these little kids, don't, go to college. It looks lame to them, and then you got to watch the algorithm. Now, something called the algorithm that if you click on enough stuff, it's what you see on social media. Well, these kids, all they seeing is drama, toxicity, Blueface, Krishan. They going viral with these streamers. So we got to fight. We got to remember we got to fight against that too, because technology is here, and we got to make sure that we check our algorithm.
All right.
Yeah, to just a couple of the points that you made, Tory, the perfect thing with you saying the 80-20, this is what I also talk about on a regular basis. It's a minority group that are out here on bull, foolishness, or whatnot, but the foolishness and the crime that they are committing, it affects the majority. So even though we're supposed to be like, I come up in a generation of majority rules. That's just like voting. All right, who got the highest votes? Then they end up winning. But we get so traumatized from that 20% in a lot of situations that we change our whole lifestyle. That's where we move out. The other thing that I wanted to say about not seeing black-owned businesses in our community the way that we used to, a lot of those people have gotten older. They want to pass it to their children. Their children don't want to do it. So now, guess what? You come in with a suitcase and an offer,
Yep.
you can take this. I
Yep.
wanted to pass it down. That's how people pass down wealth. But a lot of people, unfortunately, as things have begun to change, have not wanted to take on that family legacy business that helped them grow up and not have to feel poor.
Homer, keep talking. 30 seconds, last thing. Where is Milwaukee in 10 years? Based on what we have now and what you hope, what does Milwaukee look like in 10 years?
I'm kind of terrified, but I'm going to continue to work to do the best that I can to give all of the information that I can. I'm not going to give up. I've been blessed to do this over half my life, so I'm not going to give up. Even when I think it's bleak, I'm going to keep on fighting. So I just hope the community keeps on fighting with me.
Now, should I get him? Should I get him? The question was, how does Milwaukee look? We know you're going to fight.
Yeah.
We know you're going to do. But what is your...
Well, this is what I'm saying. I hope those people join my fight.
No,
No,
no.
he's saying, where do you see Milwaukee?
Where do you
in
see
10 years?
Milwaukee?
Where do you
because-
see
Well,
us?
if we
How-
don't-
That's
how
a
we
hopeful
play.
answer, but...
Yeah. If we don't, we will end up becoming a minority. I think black people will end up becoming a minority in 10 years if we don't get our stuff together.
All right.
Well,
Dame?
we just became the majority. So I think in 10 years, it's dependent upon our leadership. Like Kyle said, it depends upon what leadership we have.
Right.
What we have to understand is right now we're at a crossroads in the city of Milwaukee as it pertains to leadership. We can go this way with the status quo, or we can go a different way where people are coming up with ideas, people are coming up with things to create different opportunities for black people that can create and grow the black community in Milwaukee. Depending upon how we vote, depending upon which leaders we get behind, that's the way we're going to go. And so there's two options. We can be prosperous, and the black community that has grown to be a majority in the city of Milwaukee can continue to be prosperous and continue to have things go in our favor, or we can stay with the status quo, have people in office that are scared to do things, have people in office that are scared to push the envelope, and we stay stuck and get overtaken.
All right. Kyle?
I'm optimistic for the city. I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see extreme growth. I'm optimistic for the new superintendent with MPS and with the emphasis on education and reinvesting in that. I'm optimistic about the investment in the community and the city. Within the next 10 years, as we know, as elections go, so does the money that comes to the state.
Right.
And so within the next 10 years, we're going to get money again in this state, and hopefully it's put to good use. But I am optimistic about the city of Milwaukee and overall growth, but also the prosperity, as you talked about. I do think we're heading in the right direction.
So I got two so-sos. I got one positive.
I got a crossroads. I think this is an important time. I think right now,
So where will we be? Will we be up or will we be down?
it's hard to say. Right now is an important time. I think if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said it's
We'd be
going
great.
down.
Really?
It's not gonna happen.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, but right now is an important time.
You get to break the
I
tie.
think that it depends on how comfortable or uncomfortable we are. And I think that the community is uncomfortable. The kids can't play outside. Every time you got to keep your head on a swivel. I always say look both ways before you cross the street.
House arrest.
I'll say this. If our uncomfortability about what's going on in our neighborhood don't push us to become more active
Right.
to solve the problem, then it's our fault when
There
the
it
future
is.
fails.
And that's what I'm saying. The
Well,
leadership,
hold on.
right?
Let me get to it. It's our fault when the leadership acts the way it acts and we don't change it. A lot of these leadership positions are lifetime seats. Lifetime seats. So I always talk about the leadership because you can only go as far as the person in the front. That's why I tell a person that's in the gang, I said, where do you think you're finna go? Where did the person who started the gang end up? Look at the leadership. Look at our leadership today. Honestly, I think most people cannot say what the black leadership has done for the black community on most occasions unless it's a group idea where everybody's involved. Like when I ask people, I was like, no, what have you got? And they'll be like, well, we got this. I said, that building belonged to everybody. But other sides of town got things specifically for them that they can enjoy for them. What have we gotten from the leadership to say, we got this for us and what we needed for our community. And most people can't answer that question. So when we start putting in leadership, like Dame said, that can fight on our behalf because it's districts. Every 15 districts, these districts, these aldermen are supposed to provide for their constituents. What have we gotten in the last 10 years that we can say we got that? Why are we continuing to say the same thing like a broken record over and over and over again? Why? It's because we don't have the leadership to lead and guide the black community into prosperity. Now, if you're uncomfortable today, and we look up 10 years from now, and we're still uncomfortable, then we got to stop pointing the finger outside of who we are, and we got to look in the mirror and say, it's our fault.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
I think, can I jump in real quick? Let me jump in.
Every time I try to end
Just
something,
let me
Dame,
jump in, because he said
every
something that
time.
I have knowledge of, brother.
You got 30 seconds.
Well,
somebody get a clock.
And I can say this because I've been working, I worked for the Common Council and for an alderperson for 12 years.
Correct.
And in that time, we've come up with the Reinvest in City Homes. We've come up with the displacement fund. This is all coming from our office. We put other people on it, but it's stuff that's coming from our office. So I would venture to say over the last 10 years, most of the stuff that has affected black people positively has come out of the 15th district and come from this mind and my brother Russ's mind. Now, what we have met along the way, though, and there could have been way more ideas that we come up with that is met with so much hostility, met with so much pushback that it burns you out. It makes you not want to be that person out in the front anymore coming up with ideas because everything you come up with, this, that, even with reinvesting city homes, the way I had it planned out was that the money would cycle. They told me you couldn't do that. Come to find out with Me Too, that energy program is the exact same thing that we wanted to do. So it's just you met with so much hostility, you met with so many roadblocks that it burns you out. So those leaders that we're talking about meet and come in and have that vigor, have that energy to want to make that difference, and it's beat out of them. And everything that they do is pushed back. And it's to the point where y'all don't see what's happening in our community. Y'all don't want to make a difference. Y'all don't want to do this. And that's how it ends.
Go
One more
on,
thing. I look at our black community and I be like, man, okay, we always are hitting roadblocks. But then as I became an advocate, I traveled up and down the state of Wisconsin. For some reason, don't even ask, I got around some Amish people. And I'm like, y'all living out here doing all of this without all the, they working together. So I learned something. I said, it's going to come a time where we're going to have to be a resource for each other. And we're going to just have to come together, and you pick up a brick, I pick up a brick, right. We pick up a piece of wood, you pick up a piece of wood, you play in the garden, we start bartering. We're going to have to really start looking at each other and saying, what are we going to do? Because like Dame said, they're going to run into the roadblocks on things that they're trying to do, and many times the roadblocks meaning I got to ask somebody to do it.
Right.
But we don't have to ask. I've been out here 16 years advocating. I don't even do meetings. I just went and did it, and it was over with. We was on to the next. We have to get active with each other, and we have to start looking at each other like, come on, brother, let's go put this together. Right. And if anybody against it, once we get to doing it, then they'll no longer be there anymore.
All right. Well, thank you. Say thank you to our hosts. You can check out Dame and Homer every morning, Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. On the award-winning 101.7.
Yes, sir.
Along with Truth to Power at 12 noon. You ruin my lunchtime every day.
Because you got to listen to him go at you?
No, I just holler at the
Payback, that's
radio,
what
and
it
he
is.
just, hurts my feelings and stuff, and then I get all riled up for my show.
That's what it's called.
All right. And of course, Tory Lowe from 1 to 4.
Ah!
All right. Well, thank you. So once again, welcome back. I'm Dr. Ken Harris from 101.7 The Truth in the Afternoon for our 2025 Truth Summit. Right now, I want to introduce one of our presenting, if not our presenting partners. She's been rocking with us for a couple of years now, and she's done some phenomenal things in the city. OneMKE, Miss Maddie Daly. For those of you that don't know about it, as I said before, it brings together leaders, organizations, and residents to amplify local voices and create real change. So if you need a resource in the city of Milwaukee, regardless of what it is, call Maddie. How are you today?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
So what brings you here today?
We worked with you guys. Make sure the microphones are good. We worked with you guys last year for the first Truth Summit, and I thought it was super impactful. I had a really good time. I learned a lot. And so we just wanted to make sure that events like this continue happening in the city. We are all about sharing those resources and trying to be a platform for residents to build community. We're all about being a platform for other nonprofits to show what they are offering to residents and try and be that platform to make people aware and make people take advantage of those resources that they're offering, and to get people more interested and excited about local government, making sure people know that the government is there to work for them and make their lives better. So they should feel comfortable talking to them if something's not right. They should be informed about who is going to be on their ballot. And yeah, they should have good relationships with all of those areas.
So how do we find your organization?
OneMKE.org is our website. We are OneMKE is our social media, and we are all often out in the community at events like this. I believe we went to 160 local events this year that we had just sat, tabled, talked to people, tried to get them connected.
So would it be fair for me to say, last question, that if I don't know, I check with OneMKE?
That's our goal. That's, we're still a new coalition. We're like a year and a half old. And so we're growing it. I would say we don't have everything, because what we're finding is there's so much in Milwaukee that a lot of people don't know about, so many cool things that are being offered. But our work this past year is to just try and meet as many cool people as possible and platform their work. So it's growing. And there's a lot there. But I'm sure this time next year there'll be even more stuff that we don't know about yet.
All right, well, thank you much. I appreciate it. Let's support OneMKE. And so we're about to start our second panel. This is a panel that that's near and dear to me, because I have so many people in my family that are in healthcare. We have Dr. Tito Izzard from Milwaukee Health Services. I'm going to let him tell you who he is. One reason is I don't have 45 minutes to read his entire bio, because it's just too long. But there's some important things that I think he should share with you about his background and the importance of being here in Milwaukee. So I present to you, and please welcome Dr. Tito Izzard.
Thank you, Dr. Ken. Appreciate it. And thanks for hosting this wonderful event. This is definitely an honor to be here. So first question is, who am I? Number one, I am Milwaukee's own, born and raised right here in 53212 zip code. This is where I was born, and all the way through going to medical school right here in the same zip code. And so I'm the president and CEO of Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated. I'm also a practicing family physician, so that we are the MLK Heritage Health Center, as well as the Isaac Coggs Heritage Health Center. Those are two of the fairly qualified health centers here in our city. There's 5 total on the north side and on the south side. And so one of the most important things is for anyone in our city who needs access to health care, whether you can afford it or not, whether you have health insurance or not, we are there to make sure you get the highest quality of care that you deserve, to make sure that you and your family stays healthy and well.
So when we started, you were very adamant that he wanted to go off script. And I told him that's actually why we're here. Those questions are suggestions.
Yeah.
Something triggered you earlier.
Yeah, and so everybody who knows me knows I always go off script. So, and partly because I'm always trying to listen and learn. And so I first want to not only acknowledge you all for hosting this forum, the summit, but also to give acknowledgement to the speakers before me because they were very powerful in their presentation. But I wanted to do a quick exercise for all of us to help reset this whole conversation on health. So here's a question for all of us. At nighttime, when the moon is its brightest, we call that a what? A full moon. Okay, so a full moon, by definition, our working definition, means it's been illuminated and reflecting the brightness from the sun. But what happens when you're describing how beautiful the moon is and how it makes everything in your neighborhood look so pretty and you're just so happy and you have so much joy, and the person next to you says, what are you talking about? It's dark, it's cold, I can't see where I'm going. What are you looking at? And the reality is, we have terms that someone mentioned earlier, misnomers. We have terms that are really incomplete in their definition. A full moon is not whole. A full moon is only the half that we get to see. And so what we're looking at is that half of the moon that's reflecting the sun, the brightness, and we call it full. But the reality is, what about the person who's looking at the moon on the other side of the moon? The other side of the moon doesn't have any light, and therefore it is dark, it's cold, and it's scary. So this reason why I like to level set the conversation on health and level set the conversation we talked about earlier today is because we have many members of our community who are talking about the same topic, but we're describing it from two different perspectives. And if we don't understand that we are actually sharing the same journey and talking about the same important topics, but we may be describing it from our individual perspective, we have to sometimes pause and ask, what perspective are you seeing this topic from so that I could better understand you and you better understand me? So I like to level set that in the conversation because even whatever I say is going to be from a certain perspective and you may have another perspective that I respect. But I want to make sure as we talk about these things, we're trying to look at it, I refer to as 360 degrees, looking at it from all perspectives. And if we don't understand somebody else's perspective, we can do two things. Number one, we can get up and move our butt around to look at it from their viewpoint. Or number two, we can listen to as many other people who have a different viewpoint than ours and learn from them. So I just that's my level setting for the conversation today.
I think I just got schooled. All right. So we talk about access to health. Let's just be real.
Right.
We talk about access to health in the Black community. We talk about the things that are lacking. But at what point can we get people to actually move and go to the doctor? Is that a balance of taking care of themselves? Is it and going to see or even finding a primary physician? I mean, that's a whole other issue by itself. Is it the historical trust that's not there? What are you seeing in Milwaukee that's causing the Black community not to be healthy?
Right, and so why is the Black community not as healthy as it should be? I think it starts off with asking some simple questions. Again, level setting. What is health? Well, so I use a very simple definition. I say health is stability within the mind, body, and spirit. And so if we use that very simple definition of health, it really starts to explain everything that's impacting our communities.
Okay.
So if health is stability in the mind, body, and spirit, then what is actually stability? So my working definition of stability is the process of achieving your individual goals, but doing it with increasing resiliency. And so if a person is achieving their goals, but they're not becoming more resilient,
Right.
stronger, what's the opposite of that? Exhausted resiliency. That means we are we're breaking down, we're burning out. And so many of our communities, so many people who we call professionals or the people who quote unquote made it, you know, that population, and we're talking about those who may have left the community or those who are doing really hard work. The reality is many of us in our community may be succeeding on paper, but we are burning at both ends. We are not succeeding with increasing resiliency, and therefore we're not stable. So if you think about health stability and stability within the mind, body, and spirit, and this whole concept of stability has to result in increasing resiliency, which actually helps make you stronger and able to endure more. The reality is what actually is happening in health for us is in a level of exhausted resiliency. So when we think about what's happening collectively, now we have to think about health is actually about an energy exchange. It's an energy exchange that happens between you as an individual person and your ecosystem, the environment around you. And so when you think about those two in a stable, healthy situation, people feed from stable ecosystems. They're nourished by it. But what happens when that ecosystem is disrupted? What happens when that ecosystem is not invested in? What happens when that ecosystem continues to extract from the land, from the resources of that ecosystem? Well, what happens is now you get a breakdown of both the person whose resiliency is wearing down, and you get a breakdown of that ecosystem that's supposed to be nourishing you. But here's the rub. Here's the thing that's not talked about in healthcare. What happens when an ecosystem breaks down, instead of you feeding and being nourished from the ecosystem starts to feed off of you. And it starts to extract resiliency from you. And we all experience that. So what does that look like? An ecosystem, you ask, well, what happened in our society? What was the transition that got us to this point? Well, what's happening is the ecosystem, because it's not being properly invested in and that's a structural decision, that ecosystem now starts to live off of the people. And so what does that mean? It costs us more to survive within our neighborhoods, whether that's having tickets. There's more tickets that are being. It costs you more to take care of your car because of potholes that you may hit. It costs more to take care of your house because the degradation and deterioration of the land. All of that costs you extra money and other resources, which now starts to break down your individual resiliency. So I think as we answer all of these questions on health, we gotta understand health from the context of the individual person and what's happening in that ecosystem. So now when we look at Black health, we can examine it and say, when has Black health in America, those who are descendants of chattel slavery, when have you ever had collectively stability? When have you ever had that level of not having to fight against exhausted resiliency as a collective people? And once we understand that that has never been a part of our history because we have never achieved restoration, we have never achieved that process of reconciliation, we have never achieved that process of reparations to restore us back to full health. And so now let's have a conversation of health disparities with that basic understanding.
So then what's the baseline? You know, we talk about health and we talk about the community needs to be in a certain spot, but what can we choose as each individual person, family, community, as in order to say you're successful in all three of those areas you talk about? What's the baseline? Is it kidney function? Is it heart? Is it weight? Is it like?
So the baseline of health is stability. So the baseline, you can think about it.
So does that differ for each person?
It's like in healthcare what we describe as normal, right?
Right.
Normal is a range, right? It's not one value on your test. So what we do is we look at the standard and say, anything that falls within this standard is considered normal. Anything outside of that standard is abnormal, and now it's just for us to investigate. So let's break that down. So in the individual person, you are made up of 5 domains. There's your physical self, there's your psychological self or your mental health person. There is your social self, how you relate in your community and how you belong. There is your economic or financial self, and then there's your spiritual self. So those 5 domains make up you as a person, all right? Each person, each one of those, if you think about it like a gas gauge in your car, there's a measurement of the level of fullness and the level of depletion. Each one of those 5 domains makes up you as a person. So normal, in the context of what we're describing, is the ability for that person, as they achieve their daily goals, to be restored. Again, because really, right, increasing resiliency. So that's what normal is. And because normal, we talk about people living here versus living there. Sometimes people move to another location because they receive restoration from that other environment, and they may not be experiencing it in this environment. Okay, so normal is your ability to retain as much fullness in those 5 different domains of yourself. And those 5 domains work with each other. So people who are pretty spiritual or religious or have some other belief system that refuels them, even though they may live a hard life, they find restoration through the Spirit.
So how many of those need to be restored in order for me to feel normal?
Well, there's a certain thing called homeostasis, right? Which essentially is balance.
Right.
Balance it's just like saying, well, how much health do I need to be healthy? There is no answer to that, right? Because health is something that's fluid. It's constantly changing. We call it dynamic, right? Health is dynamic. Your health state today is just today. It's not necessarily tomorrow. And so since your health is constantly changing, that's why I say when we talk about health, you have to understand it in the context of this energy exchange. Energy coming to you to restore you, energy that's going away from you that depletes you. And so, for example, I like to use an example of driving my car. I know my car, my 2013 Honda CR-V, by the way, my car, I know when that light comes on, I can drive 20 miles before getting more gas. I do not panic because I have received a warning sign that tells me when to restore. So I don't have to stop my daily journey unless I plan to drive more than 20 miles. So I'm still stable even though I'm operating with a light that's on E because I have an active plan to fill my tank before I get home. You see how it kind of works in balance?
Yeah.
So think about what's happening in the individual body, but now that same process, that same concept is actually happening in our ecosystem that are around us, right? So we receive nourishment and fueled by those, called the 7 capitals in our ecosystem. So like nature, sometimes going to the park might restore you. You know, for your physical health, exercising might restore you. Having really good conversations with your friends and family, that emotional relationship can restore you. So there's lots of things that we can do to restore our health, but it's also, we have to think about it, what's actually happening in the ecosystem where that energy exchange may be moving away from us because the environment is broken. It's a disrupted ecosystem.
So let's just jump in because we know many in our community don't follow the warning signs. They don't follow the heart, the kidneys. There are I would estimate, and correct me if I'm wrong, 3 or 4 maladies that Black people have constantly, over and over, and it's gone through the entire community. It might be because of you not taking care of yourself. It might be the fact that you have a culture that eats certain foods, but we've got high blood pressure, we've got kidney issues, blood, and weight. And so at some point, when will we correct that? Like, where do we go for education? Where do we go for information? But at some point, is it really up to the individual to change themselves?
Well, and that's the reason why I've done this deeper dive investigation, because even in healthcare, and we're trained to believe that, well, it's because you don't exercise, well, it's because you smoke, or because all of those individual behaviors are 100% true, but again, it's about perspective, right?
Right.
All right, so all of those things are true, but why is it that, so let me make a statement. All people of color may experience discrimination, but not all people of color experience chronic, persistent, multi-generational health disparities. Okay, that's one important point. The second important point is, why are there still health disparities in black people who moved out of the neighborhood? So you can't blame the
Correct.
environment.
Correct.
They're highly educated, right? That person may have a six-figure income. That person may not smoke and they exercise regularly. They do the 10,000 steps. That person is doing all of the positive behaviors. But one thing that's not shared with us as a community is that statistically, health disparities, so our example, I use a black female. A black female that has all those positive things, so we completely eliminated behavior. That black woman has higher health disparities than her white peer, the white
Because
person. That's the whole point. The whole point is that, because we say, so because of, right, it's not anything in the individual person. It is not any individual decision that person. It's because that person still belongs to an ethnocultural lineage group that has never been restored. And so it's something I created a term called the health disparities triad. So the health disparities triad is looking at health disparities from the perspective of the person, the environment, and the condition. And so if you think about that as a triangle, the person, the environment, and the condition, health disparities doesn't happen until that whole triad breaks down. All right, so how does that work? So we already described what's happening in the individual. Exhausting resiliency. So all those 5 domains, they're all starting to work, or at least one is working off of that E that I talked about, right? Like your gas tank. Well, if that area is not being restored, what happens as any one of those domains is experience that depletion, then what happens is is what we call latent risk factors. Your risk factor for, we'll just use heart disease.
Right.
Your risk factor for heart disease now gets exposed. That alone does not cause heart disease. But now you take an exposed risk factor, and now you take a trigger from the environment, such as pollution, such as poor nutrition, whatever, something coming from the environment. The environment releases triggers that binds with your exposed risk factors, and now it takes your pre-disease to activated disease.
So does it all come down to personal behavior?
No, it doesn't come all down to it. Personal behavior is and again, it's just like looking at the full moon.
Right.
Personal behavior is very important. So, for example, and I see where you're trying to go. It's like, okay, where's the meat? What do we need to do? Because we want to know, okay, this is not a fatalistic conversation. This is not doom and gloom. When I work with a patient one-on-one, I talk about what you individually can do to improve your overall health. It will improve your individual situation. But we're not talking about individual health right now. We're
Right.
talking about health disparities. Health disparities is a conversation of the statistical difference between one group and another group. So statistically, it is not about our behaviors. Statistically, okay? Individually, it is about your behavior because your individual behavior can influence your overall health. But that person I just described to you, the person who has a good job, did all these positive things, well, one of those people was my wife at 45 who got breast cancer. She doesn't smoke, she exercises, she doesn't drink, she doesn't do any of those things. The other person was me last year. I got kidney cancer. I'm a doctor, right?
Right.
I do my 10,000 steps a day. People make fun of me because I'm very, they say I'm obsessed. It's like, no, I'm just very persistent because I understand the concept of health disparities. And the blessing, though, in both of our cases is that my wife was able to detect it early at 45, and so now it's been over 10 years, and now, she's doing well. And in my case, I caught it early, actually caught it by accident, by having having a test done that showed the presence of this little developing lesion on my kidney that was small, about the size of a pea. And so I had a partial kidney removal, and so my cancer was removed. But the point for us to understand in this conversation is that there has to be individual decisions. You have to do as best as you can to try to eat well, to exercise, to not be overweight. All of those things influence your overall health, but that's why it's so important to have a relationship with a healthcare provider who's going to listen to you, because that's when you can go to that person and they do what's called preventative. So we're going to check your blood pressure. We're going to do this blood work. We're going to check you for this one thing. So I'll tell you my example, for example. What happened to me, I went and got my PSA, prostate blood test. My PSA blood test was high. So now I went through this whole workup with my doctors to figure out why was my blood was that high, and I ended up getting a CAT scan done. Well, one CAT scan missed this lesion, and so I was sent to the urologist specialist, said, let's do an MRI of your kidneys, figure out what's going on. Well, the MRI picked up the cancer. They went back from 9 months earlier and said, oh, it actually was on that CAT scan.
Wow.
So the point I'm trying to make isn't that healthcare people, sometimes they make mistakes. The point is that I was being worked up for my preventative evaluation of prostate cancer, which actually ended up being negative. And they found the kidney cancer by accident that they had missed. But because I had a relationship with healthcare, I was still able to continue going through the process, trying to figure out what was going on, and it might have saved my life.
So then how do we build that for everyone else?
The same thing. How does this work? If I'm saying that people are experiencing exhausted resiliency and experiencing a disrupted ecosystem that's extracting energy from you, if that is the case, then how do we overcome it? Some of our panelists talked about the importance of the political process. We have to get engaged with demanding that our community gets restored. And the restoration has to happen to the community and to the people. But what do we do in the meantime? In the meantime, our strategy is things like this, educating ourselves. I feel when we talk about exhausting resiliency and what you say stability is increasing resiliency, me being able to talk to my community like that actually provides me with a level of restoration. It restores me. It gives me hope when I can share a message with my community that they may not have known. And then me listening to the panel, I learned something new that I didn't also. And so that restores me. So what can we do? What we can do is keep hosting forums like this to educate each other, to empower each other, and then to now take it to transform that to the next level of developing a political movement that ensures that we're going to be treated right. So I call it collective cooperation. Collective cooperation is our ability to say, I may not have a lot to bring to the table, but what I bring to the table can be shared with anyone else who comes to the table. And then you bring what you can bring. So individually, I might have a completely depleted domain, but your domain is full. And because this is, in healthcare, we call this metabolism. Metabolism is about energy exchange. So if I'm depleted in one area, I'm worn out, but you are full, then you can actually exchange energy with me to help restore me, and I can exchange my energy when it comes to mental health. I'm very strong mental health, but I could be weak physically. So my mental health may be able to help restore you by listening to your story and to help be that bridge, be that person to help you. Do you need to get to the doctor? You having trouble? Let me go with you to the doctor if you feel like you're not being treated right. You having trouble? Let me help you get to the grocery store so you can get food. You want to walk and exercise, but you don't want to do it alone? Okay, I will walk with you in the neighborhood so the two of us will be safer together than separate. There are simple things that we can do. Right. The collective cooperation of individuals can provide the level of restoration temporarily that we need until we can make a movement to actually heal the people and heal the ecosystem.
All right, last question though. How do you take all that and plug it into more or less an individual wanting to get into that health system? We've got disparities in healthcare systems as well. So you've got to overcome your personal issues, and now I plug into a system where we talked about earlier, some medical schools are still teaching medical doctors that black people can sustain pain better than whites, that we've had, tennis stars who've had issues with childbirth because of the beliefs of a doctor that black people are different as it relates to pain and things of that nature.
Right. And so that kind of goes back, and that's why I'm saying it's not just about behaviors and our poor health. It is because, so if we look at ecosystem larger and saying, well, even our own healthcare institutions don't treat us right.
Correct.
Right? Looking at the pandemic, that was an eye-opening experience for me because, I'm always doing this research and always trying to understand health disparities, especially in the black community. But it really showed me an example of the pandemic completely opened our eyes to show that we've all heard of things called social determinants of health. I know you have. Again, that information is not completely correct when it comes to understanding populations like us. The social determinants of health does not mention anything about wealth. And wealth is one of the most critical components that determines your wellness. The social determinants of health speaks to your income. But one thing we learned is that people who had good income when the pandemic hit and they were furloughed or laid off, we just saw this happen with the government shutdown. What happens if you don't have wealth, if you don't have access to financial resources to sustain you through a difficult, challenging time? And that is what's missing in the black community, is the lack of wealth that exists. And so we have to, in our argument, in our conversations, we have to understand the fact that these things that are not being shared with us properly, these are some of the critical components that distinguishes why we experience health disparities and why other racial ethnic groups don't experience it. So things that we can do now that we know all of this is, again, look, if you do, number one, do you have access to a healthcare provider? Well, I just already talked. If you don't, you have access to 5 different organizations that have at least 10 different clinics throughout the city, north side, south side, that allow you to have access to healthcare providers who care about you. Now, that's in general. Doesn't mean that individual person is going to be any good. So if you find that your relationship with that person is not working, there's an opportunity to use your peer network to say, hey, can you come to the doctor with me? You and your family member, especially men, right? Men don't go to the doctor as much, right? And so asking your brothers, your fathers, your uncles, your cousin, hey, when's the last time you had XYZ taken care of? I told you I'd go off on tangents. So here's for the group. Let's talk about cancer. There's 3 cancers in black women that causes over half of all cancers. And so for time purposes, breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer. In men, in black men, there's 3 cancers that causes over half of all cancers. Lung cancer and colon cancer are exactly the same between both groups. So the only difference is prostate cancer in men, breast cancer in women. If you look at, there's over 100 different cancers. So if you can just focus on those 3 and do the preventative behaviors with those 3, then you can actually significantly reduce at least that impact. So then we look at heart disease. Knowing your blood pressure is critical to the development of heart disease. That is something simple that you can measure at home, you can measure it in a store, or you can come to the doctor's office. Most doctor's office will measure your blood pressure and not even charge you for it. Okay, and so being able to be aware of these things, like what can I specifically do to improve my overall health? So we talked about heart disease, we talked about cancers. Well, what about diabetes? Know your ABCs. doing your blood test to know what your average blood sugar has been like in the last 3 months. It's called a hemoglobin A1C test. That's the A. B, know your blood pressure. C, know your cholesterol. Those, at least between preventative health and those basic things, that would get us very far as an individual person and as a community to say, what specifically can I do to improve my individual health and my family's health? And then what can we do collectively by bringing to the table our skill sets, our knowledge, our wisdom, our endurance, our resiliency to the table to let other people feed from you, from what basically you are willing to give. And so when we do that collectively, now our ecosystem around us has the ability to now feed from us, but not deplete us. And we can now start restoring our ecosystem, which actually starts to make us stronger.
Dr. Tito Izzard, want to say thank you this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Questions?
And so if someone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
So I'm at Milwaukee Health Services Incorporated, which is right down the street, the MLK Heritage Health Center, right down the street on MLK and Clark Street, and then our Isaac Coggs Heritage Health Center on 82nd and Silver Spring.
All right, thank you much. We have time for 2 questions. Anybody has a question?
I know he's been waiting a long time to ask this question.
Who's that? Yeah? Come up. Come up, sir.
No, so the 5 domains so within a person, I call it the 5 domains of human resiliency. And that's your physical, your mental, your spirit, your financial, and your social. In the community, there's 7, they call it 7 community capitals. And without going into too much details, there's literature on that, the 7 community capitals. And there are things like nature, the built environment, your political, social capital, like you've heard social capital, human capital, those are the 7 community capitals. And so those capitals amongst themselves actually have a process of energy exchange, but when that breaks down, I call it kind of the ecosystem fragmentation. There's a point where the ecosystem no longer is functioning in that homeostatic way, and now the person's breakdown. When those 2 happens, then you get a disrupted ecosystem.
Last question.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and thank you for bringing up that question. I really appreciate it. And it's so important for each one of us to know that you are empowered, but power has to be activated. Okay? You are already empowered, but power has to be activated. So what does that mean for you? The whole healthcare structure is designed to make you subservient to that system. Okay? The system historically is designed with the doctor in the center, and everybody works around the doctor. Over the last 10, 15 years, there's something we call patient-centered care. It's actually to rechange that whole approach, to put the patient in the center, okay? And so a patient-centered model, for number one, make sure that you're going to a practice that operates with a patient-centered model. How do you know? Because some of these are technical, right? Basically, when you walk in, how well do they address your needs? Are they accommodating? So I like to think in terms of access, quality of care, and culturally compassionate customer service. Access. How easy is it for you to get in timely, and is the cost appropriate for you to be able to afford? Okay? If it's, when we think in terms of quality of care, that's about making sure that when you're working with your healthcare provider, they're setting a goal, a standard for you that describes what is best practice. But the reality for many of us, we may not always be able to do best practice because maybe the cost or maybe there's a barrier. So every healthcare provider should be able to accommodate or be able to break it down to say, okay, maybe we can't afford medicine A, but medicine B will work just as well or almost as well for you. And so I don't care how poor, how broke down you are, in healthcare, there are lots of opportunities to be able to adjust the approach for you individually. If your healthcare person presents you one option and they say, well, I'm sorry, I can't do nothing for you, that is not a good provider. Because there is, in healthcare, that's why we say it's the art of healthcare, because it's not just about the technical piece, it's about understanding where your patient is and to be able to bring options to them. Because maybe our goal isn't to get to Z, maybe it's to get to B, C, D. Get you moving on that journey. And once you experience success and progress, now you are more likely to continue towards Z. But it can't be you go to Z or you go nowhere. If somebody's doing that to you, that's not appropriate. So again, advocacy is knowing what to expect. If your doctor should be, so I talked about the ABCs, you should know every time you go to the doctor, if nothing else, what are your vitals? Okay? You should know what your diagnosis is. And they should explain what the plan is to get you into best practice. If they cannot explain how to get you into best practice, then it requires further conversation.
All right. Well, thank you much.
Okay.
Dr. Tito
Thank
Izzard,
you.
appreciate you. If you have any questions, you can speak to him a little later. We're going to take a few minutes to break, and then we've got our final panel coming up. I just want to remind you, our presenting sponsor is OneMKE, focuses on building bridges across neighborhoods to make Milwaukee stronger together. Milwaukee Area Technical College, our partners with local businesses to grow Milwaukee's skilled workforce and strengthen the community. Of course, we got Cousin Subs coming somewhere. I've been looking for them all day. I'm just looking. They give back through their Make It Better Foundation, supporting local causes across the state, so we're appreciative to them. And we've got Versity, that connect donors and patients in science to advance discoveries in blood health. I want to say thank you for being here, the 2025 Truth Summit, and we'll take about 7 minutes and we'll be right back. Once again, we're back, and thank you for coming and joining us at the 2025 Truth Summit. It's been an especially great day. I've had a great time here. Of course, I want to say thank you to Versity. I want to say thank you to MATC, our presenting sponsor, OneMKE, and of course, as I mentioned again, am I mentioning Cousin Subs too much? Cousin Subs. You know what usually happens is when I show up to things like this, I always hope, like, oh, they've got food. I'm talking on the radio. 20 minutes later, no food, and I'm not talking on the radio. So, but what we want you to do is help yourself. We've got some refreshments for you and some food. We want you to be attentive and nourished, because this is one of my favorite topics, as they well know. And we have two, who I like to call dynamic African-American, Black, I say phenomenal, school superintendents. We've got Dr. Terrence Robinson from the West Milwaukee School District. You know her well, she's been here before. Dr. Brenda Caselius, she is the Milwaukee Public School Superintendent. All right, so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, talk about their experience in I guess, higher education as well as public school education. And we'll go from there, starting with Dr. Caselius. Well, let's start with, she has taken a point of personal privilege and passed it to Dr. Robinson.
All right, so I'm looking at my clock. So good morning, still morning. Good morning. Well, we can do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Terrence Robinson. I am the proud superintendent of the West Milwaukee School District. I am a native of Houston, Texas. So pardon my accent in advance, all right? I've lived in Texas all of my life up until around 3 years ago when I took a leap of faith and decided to join the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District. My education, I have a bachelor's in government, minor in history from Houston-Tillotson University in Austin, Texas. My master's is from Prairie View A&M University in Prairie View, Texas. And my doctorate is from the University of Houston in Houston, Texas. All of my experience has been in Title I situations or in public education. And I'm excited to be here. I believe I have the best job on earth because I have the opportunity to make a difference. And I hope at some point during this particular discussion, we will talk about the differences we are making in our district and the changes that we're seeing immediately so far within these past 3 years. Just excited to be here and excited for the opportunity to engage with everyone here today.
All right, it's time for Brenda Cassellius.
Thank you, Ken, for having this really important conversation. I was able to come a little earlier and hear from Dr. Izzard, and I just was blown away by the information he was giving, and I can't wait to partner with him on coordinated and comprehensive support system for our students around public health, because I think we have a public health crisis right now going on with our children within the community that needs to be addressed, and I want to be part of that. What I'm finding out more and more every day that I am here, and I've been here just now approaching my 8th month, is that my job as superintendent is going to be much bigger than just trying to educate our kids. It's going to be providing support, connecting to the city, the county services, and coordinating a comprehensive system that's going to really serve our children and our students, our students and our families really well, and hopefully rebuild and reinvest in our communities, particularly our most vulnerable communities and our Black community. I think I'm joined here by Director Jackson from the school board. Let's give him a round of applause. I'm really lucky as a superintendent to have such a supportive school board who is really willing to dig in and to the work that we have ahead of us. And it's not going to be easy work, as you know, and read in the papers every single day. Ken asked me right away, any questions that are off topic, and I said no. You know, I am an open book. I'm transparent. I'm bringing transparency to the Milwaukee Public Schools. You know what's going on. I have nothing to hide. We're going to dig in. We make mistakes. We're going to admit our mistakes. We're going to move on and fix them and just do the best we can for our children together. So you can always get that from me, and I'll always show up when you invite me. So need to be around me with the real community anyway. So I'm Brenda Cassellius. I've been in this work 36 years. I say this job is one of the hardest jobs I've ever had right now. But I'm happy to do it, and I think God brought me here to do this job. So I'm living by faith each and every day to do this work. I grew up in the Southeast Projects of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I started as a paraprofessional. I had people who paid it forward for me, so I dedicated my life to paying it forward for children. I wake up every day to make a difference for 65,000 kids, and that's what I get to do, and I'm so blessed to be able to do it. I've been a paraprofessional, started as a paraprofessional, and was a teacher, was a school leader, was a district leader, was a superintendent, was the highest position in education in the state of Minnesota as the State Commissioner of Education for 8 years that I probably served with Governor Mark Dayton leading that, and then I was most recently the superintendent of Boston Public Schools during the pandemic. Had 3 mayors, 3 board chairs, and handled a public health crisis during that time, and then came back, and now I'm really blessed to be here in Milwaukee, so happy to answer all your questions.
So let's talk about the educational pipeline. How much influence do you have on that pipeline? I mean, you know, you can't control what children are in your district that are coming in at 3K, 4K, 5K. But what can you do to help those families that have younger kids that are gonna help you create educational pipeline you need so that a city can actually grow?
Well, I believe that the pipeline starts right at conception, with supporting the parents and supporting the family and the birth mother and maternal health. Like Dr. Izzard was talking about, maternal health has every impact on the child's success in life right away. And so that's where it starts. In Minnesota, we had a great program called Early Child Family Education. which was a birth to age 5 program that supported families and did home visiting and had family education for parents, for their health, their developmental milestones, providing the support, the prevention programs for both the mother and the family and the child. That's where it really starts. And then we have really strong preschool programs to learn the fundamentals of, their phonics and their literacy and all of their social emotional well-being that happens. We have some of those programs in Milwaukee Public Schools for our 3-year-olds. What's most important that I'm finding right now in Milwaukee Public Schools is a need to identify much earlier our students with autism so that they can get the support that they need and get early intervention, because they really do thrive so much more better when they are given these early supports. So I've issued a special ed audit, and we're going to have a special ed audit in March in Milwaukee Public Schools to look at our special education programming, because we want to be sure that we are doing this early intervention for families and helping families understand how to support their young children at the ages of birth through age 5, so when they get to us, we can make sure that they have everything that they need so that we can educationally prepare for them and not be doing so much catch-up. So that's really important. So then the other piece is and just make sure that kids are reading on grade level by grade 3, so that then they can learn all the content that they need to learn to be prepared in middle school and high school to prepare for the rigor that's needed for college and for career. And that's how that pipeline is built. So you have to scaffold it and understand the different developmental levels, both the social emotional well-being, the health outcomes of the child, and the educational outcomes. If any 1-3 of those pillars is not right, then the child is not going to thrive and be able to have good life outcomes.
Dr. Robinson, people tend to have a different point of view when it comes to suburban school districts, but there's some powerful things going on out there.
So I would say we're not suburban. We're more urban than suburban, okay? We're right on the border with Milwaukee, and so a lot of our kids go back and forth. So I think we have more suburban problems than urban problems. I agree with Doc on a lot of the things that she said. We have to take accountability as a district. There's no longer a situation where we have to leave it up to the parent. There's a term, a Latin term, it's called in locus parentis. It means in place of parent. It means that the school system has to take responsibility for every single kid and their outcome. And that's something that we have to believe in as a district. If you don't believe in that, you can't work for me, bottom line. If you don't believe that you're responsible for the outcomes of students, you can't work for me. If you don't believe that your success, their success is your success. If you don't watch your pronouns, if you only say and take responsibility when they're successful, and then when they're not successful, you say, oh, they didn't do well, then you can't work for me. That's just how I roll in, what we've been trying to instill in our community within our district. We have to take accountability for every single kid. Just like Doc said, she's looking at the special education audit. We had one conducted last May. And we have, out of that audit, launched multiple autism classes, additional classes within our school system, and also the rooms where our kids can have that emotional stimulation. And so those are things that we've really looked at and trying to figure out, like, what's our role in making sure that our kids are successful in life? If kids go through our system, they're not able to read by 3rd grade, then guess what the system outside of us is doing? They're creating systems of incarceration. They're looking at our numbers and saying, okay, this amount of kids can't read on level, this amount of kids are labeled as special ed, this amount of kids are labeled as at risk. So guess what? We need to project in the future, this is the amount of beds we're going to need to house these kids. That's what's happening in society. So as a school system, we have to turn that around and take responsibility and say, if our kids are not reading, then it's our job to get them to read. If our kids are not on level academically with mathematics, it's our job to intervene and make that happen. That's our job as a school district. We have to take responsibility for that, and we have to take ownership for that. Their success is our success, and that's our job. So within that pipeline, let me tell you something. If we don't do something as a school district to make sure that our kids are successful and we kick them out, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be waiting on us, sitting in our cars when we come out of stores, ready to rob us. We have to make sure that we intervene as a school district to prevent that from happening. Our expulsion rates, they've dropped tremendously because we've been very, very intentional in making sure that we have second chance programs to give our kids those opportunities, because once we expel them, guess what we're doing? We're also contributing to that pipeline to prison. So it's about intentional actions to make sure that we address that as a school system.
Thank you. Dr. Cassellius, you've had a pretty traumatic week this week with NPS, with the tragic killing of a high school student, robbed outside of a school, went back to the school for help. And from the outside looking in and with a law enforcement background, it looks like the school did everything they were supposed to do, properly made sure that young man got help, but unfortunately he passed away. What was that experience for you like this week?
Quite honestly, it's actually really hard for me to be here today. I spent some time with the family at the hospital yesterday, and I just haven't been the same in the past 24 hours. It's just really had a visceral impact on me personally, and it's hard for me to like not just lose myself right now, to manage through this and to actually think straight. So I think about the trauma that I'm feeling from this child and trying to comfort this mother and grandmother yesterday, to what our teachers feel each and every day, to what our principals feel each and every day, to what our parents are feeling each and every day, and to what our students are feeling every single day when they lose a friend or a family member. And it just resonates. It just resonates through the whole community. It is so traumatic. And last year we had 23 children lose their lives throughout the year. And I'm just devastated by it. I called it out in May. I'll continue to call it out. Just yesterday, I was with the county exec, I was with the mayor, I was with the Children's, I was with Urban League, the chief of police, all of my security people, lots of violence interrupters, lots of other nonprofit community members yesterday morning. And as soon as I was done speaking at this gun violence summit to pull us all together, because we'd been working on it for a couple months to pull us all together, I sat down and my two heads of security came over and said, we just had a student shot. I about lost it. I just turned pale, had to walk out of the conference and start managing this crisis within our system. So this just has to stop. It's not normal. 36 years, I've never seen anything like it, which is why I want to partner with Dr. Izzard, because this is a public health crisis.
So then,
and we had a program in Boston called the Comprehensive Behavioral Health Model, and I was on with Gil Perry, who's the CEO of Children, saying, we need to get this in our schools. We'll start with our communities that are suffering the most, and then we'll build out this cohort model. It's been 13 years in Boston where they add about 10 schools each year to this model, which does universal screening around behavior and health outcomes for students. There's data sharing. We work together with our social workers, our coordinators, our health professionals, clinics, and we get the kind of preventative and intervention services that are needed through a tiered model. And I am committed to getting this in Milwaukee Public Schools.
we talk a lot about the traumatic side and things that occur as it relates to family and issues in the streets, but what about curriculum? At some point, we have to nail down the fact that the scores, you know, we have a Department of Public Instruction that, for all intent and purpose, soften the score so it really doesn't look like a school is bad, but it really doesn't give you an accurate understanding of what the issues are at that school. So with that, do we change curriculum? Is it important to have culturally competent curriculum, or do we follow what we've followed over the past 50 years and just do reading, writing, and arithmetic?
I think there has to be a nice mixture of it. I really believe that it's important to educate kids on where they come from. You have to, in order for a kid to understand where they're going, they have to actually understand where they come from. They have to understand what their origin is. And they have to have people around them, most importantly though, that can relate to that and that actually can speak to that. I think that's the part I have in my district. So, for example, I could pull up my two hands and tell you the number of African-American teachers I had in my district up to 2 years ago, okay? It was these two hands right here. And I have 15 schools, okay? I can name them. And there are several schools that don't have any. Right? And so what we've been able to do is be intentional about addressing that. And I have a very open board that says we have to improve that. The number of minority students is growing, so guess what? We have to also grow the number of minority teachers in our district. That has to match. It may not match, but we have to close that gap to where it's here and make it more of a here. That has to happen. Our kids will the research shows they'll be able to relate better to somebody who looks like them, who can talk like them, who understands what they're going through, who comes from the same environment they come from, and are a story of inspiration. Kids relate to that much better than somebody who has no idea where they come from or the things that they're going through when they go home. When they go home to a parent who's at work and the kid has to go home to just watch TV until the parent comes home, we have many teachers who don't understand what that means or what that looks like. And so we have to create environments where that our kids can thrive. And that's why in our district we have before school and after school programs so our kids can stay active. This is, and I'm talking about $75 for a semester. Like it's you're not going to find anything that's cheaper than that. So the district is taking the brunt of that cost and saying, look, we're just trying to keep our kids engaged and active in lessons and sports and activities so they don't go home to an empty house. So they don't go home to the streets and wait for their parent to come home. They actually have a place to go. And so that's just something that we've been trying to be more intentional about as a district so we can definitely close those gaps. It is about opportunity gaps that we've definitely been trying to close in our district.
But different causes
Sure.
cause different issues.
100%.
MPS has a significant number of black administrators, black principals, black paras, black teachers, but yet there seems to be a disconnect with some of the issues that are going on. And I know you've done some great things to address those, but what can be done over the next, say, 5 years in order to help MPS understand what's going on in the community? I know you talked about working with Dr. Izzard, but what other forms of assistance can you give teachers through professional development or whatever to help them, to bring them along?
Well, there are two separate things that you're asking here. One is like the support to our families and to our community. So I've been out in the community, talking to the community. Part of that is today, right? And every other time I'm out in the community. We have also monthly meetings that are going to be starting on the 19th, so I hope and encourage all of you to come out. My team, my academic superintendents, you'll be able to meet them. They're going to be working directly with their communities, with their principals. We used to have 4 regional superintendents who supervised 30 principals, way too many. Now we built that down to 8. So now that there are 15 schools that they supervise, so they get to walk those schools every single week and support their principals directly and support their teachers, which is another way to really launch out any kind of literacy program, for instance, that we're doing, or other type of academic programming that we're doing, and support families and make sure families are informed and listened to and valued. So that's one. We created a family and community engagement office. We didn't have one before, so that we can be more intentional about our parent coordinators who are in our building supporting our families. That's also extremely important. And so those pieces are really important because families are our first teachers to our children. And so they have to be part of the solution. You have to be, children don't come to us as just children, they come to us as whole systems of support. And so all those systems have to be working together. And so I'm doing a lot of work on the rebuilding within Milwaukee Public Schools of our family supports, community supports around the support and wraparound supports of our children. That's one piece. The second piece is then putting in place extremely explicit, common, shared vision around what the academic programming is and making sure that MTEA is at the table, that teachers are engaged in that, and that has been bumpy. That has been hard. There's been resistance to change. It's been difficult. And so we are working through that. I've brought in an external partner to help us negotiate and navigate the relationships between the union and the administration and making sure that we're all working together. And so that is back on track, which is positive, but we need to put in place our high-quality materials, which we didn't have before. We need to then train our teachers in the science of reading. We need to make sure then that they have the implementation skills and the time to actually do that. Because I remember now, I've only been here 8 months. I inherited the previous budget. I inherited the calendar. I inherited all of the people who are here. So what I have to do is be able to work with what I have now this year and get ready for next year where we'll really do the big launch, where I can create the structures and systems and put the money where it needs to be specifically so that teachers have what they need and the time they need to actually practice their craft at what they're learning and get it to children, and then get these systems of the other coordination with other partners like all of you, and for the other coordinated external supports that are going to support children and families outside of school and somewhat inside school too, to help our social workers, our counselors, our nurses to provide that support as well. So there's this outside, external kind of social emotional behavioral supports, building the culture that has to happen, so, and the conditions for children to learn well in, that all has to happen, while we're also building the academic side of the house. And don't forget, we had the governor's operational audit because the district was in such need of shape to build out the finances, the HR systems, you know, all of our technology systems, et cetera. You know, we were dealing with the lead crisis, which I can happily say all schools but one are now abated for lead. So we're ahead of schedule on that. We also have our audit in, and so we're on target to get our last audit, FY25, in by December 15, so the finances are in order, which is another piece that we're really struggling, we struggled with. So a couple of those operational things. So there's the operational pieces, there's the academic pieces, and then there's the safety and wellness pieces that we need to put in place as well.
Absolutely.
Nothing going on in
No,
Milwaukee
she brings
Public
up some
Schools.
great points. I think as far as the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District, one of the things, a couple of things we've been doing very intentional in the last 3 years is focusing on curriculum. We've implemented a brand new curriculum. This past year, we worked with a group called Instructional Partners in making sure that we had a guaranteed viable curriculum for every single kid in our district. I would tell you when I came in, the district reminded me of the song Tony, Tony, Tony by Tony, Tony, Tony called "It Feels Good." You know, everything just feels good. But the problem with that is the scores don't say that. Okay? And I'm telling teachers are saying, well, we just do it because we think it's just the right thing to do. We have to base that on something. And that, to me, that's deficit thinking though, because you're saying that our kids can't do. You're saying, well, we just give them this.
Correct.
And they're able to, so we're good. But then when they're faced against the forward exam, they're looking at the forward exam and it's like calculus compared to the math that they've been doing, right? It's not even to that level. So I've said, no, our kids can do. Guys, I got a doctorate and I'm black. Our kids, every single kid can do that. And I'm not special. Every single kid can do. But we got to believe that we have to instill that in them. And that was that deficit thinking that we had to change. We got to move from a feels good system to we are doing it. Because the question I'm going to always ask somebody is, well, how are you measuring success? If you can't tell me how you're measuring success, then you're hurting my kids. And I want you to be able to tell me, how do you know that we are successful or what you're doing is successful? How are you measuring that? So that's just very important when we're looking at curriculum and making sure things are viable for all kids, because all kids can do.
But doesn't some of that come down to teacher expectation?
100%.
I've learned growing up that in the end, when you're in a classroom, it should be your sanctuary.
Sure.
That should be the place where you learn all the things that you need to learn, but yet it doesn't seem to happen because from what I'm hearing is that the teachers don't believe young black and young brown kids can do it, therefore they respond to them in that way, whether they can do it or not.
Well, that was the past.
Right.
We've definitely turned the corner on that.
Okay.
We've gladly and welcomed some exits out of the district because, you know, if you don't believe that our kids can do it, then this is not the place for you. And we have to be honest about that and have some honest conversations. What we're doing, let me tell you what I've also tried to demonstrate. And that's the 3 A's, what I call it. It's accessibility, availability, and accountability. And I've put that into every single person that works for me. I told them, I don't want to see y'all in central office. You need to be in schools. I don't want to see you looking at me because I'm not going to be here. I'm in schools. I'm walking classrooms. I'm talking curriculum. I'm pulling up, when I walk in a classroom, I pull my phone out. I'm not checking Twitter or Threads or anything. No. You know what I'm doing? I'm actually looking at the curriculum documents because I want to know, are you teaching what you're supposed to be teaching and how you're supposed to be teaching it? I'm an instructional leader, and I expect every single person that works for me to be the same way. So when I have that conversation with a teacher who we may need to exit out, and they're having this conversation and talking about how excellent they are, I can say, no, because when I was in your classroom on this day, this is what I saw. My district is not big enough, not so big where I can't do that. Now, Doc here, she's got a bigger beast over there. I can do that, and I gladly do that because I believe how I'm more impactful is being inside of the work and inside of the buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the privilege of being in, I can't remember now because it's blur, but I had 2 days of school visits this week, and you know, when I get in there, I'm able to have those instructional conversations with the principal and with the teachers, which is great. But I don't get the same opportunity, obviously, that you do with the 153 schools, and so there's a lot of different complexities to running a much larger organization, obviously. But the instructional focus stays the same, so I have help. So I have a whole team, right? And the academic superintendents are in the schools. They don't even have offices in the central office. We've moved our offices out into the schools because I felt like we needed more central office personnel in the schools, supporting the schools. So many of those offices have moved out into the schools.
So we talk about education, but many times we don't talk about the end of it. We're talking either a pathway to career or a pathway to higher education. But at some point, can we look forward in the next 3 to 4 years with all the issues that are happening in education now, where there are less children being born? So you've got less kids in the pipeline coming into schools, but yet prices are constantly going up. Families are transient. Many families aren't owning homes the way they used to. How's that going to impact the pathway of a child that you have there when you know in the future you may not have access to that tax base that you've been able to use for your budget?
That's a lot you just said, right? You bring up funding issues, because our funding is based on per pupil.
Right.
You also bring up sort of conflicts in ideology a bit.
Correct.
Without saying it, you bring it up. It is truly scary times in public education. It really is. There is this war between public education and other means of education. Vouchers are a serious threat because right now I believe we spend around $10,000 to $13,000 per kid who goes out versus only receiving very minimal amount of that coming in for every kid. So it's very lopsided how things are working right now, and we have to also be aware of that. The various title funds that we've been relying on for years, they're in question.
Yeah.
I don't know what the new funding system is going to look like, a new funding bill in a couple of years. It's going to be something to really watch because we've been depending on Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. But as you know, a lot of those funds were actually delayed this year with the new administration and for whatever reason, but it's a huge threat. But, it's one of those things, Dr. Harris, I can only worry about and control what I can control. Okay. And I just promise as a superintendent that every single kid that comes through those doors, we're going to educate them. And I've told parents from the New Berlin district, the superintendent from New Berlin, our neighbors who have it a little bit better than we have it.
Okay.
I educate whoever walks through my doors, and I try to provide them the same level of opportunity and the opportunity they deserve to receive. Every kid, and this is a statement I'm going to say, it may not be popular in this room, but I probably wouldn't have said it 20 years ago. Every kid is not going to college. So knowing that and understanding that, what do we do as a system? And we have committed in the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District to provide those kids a pipeline. So if you don't want to go to college and you're telling me you want to be a welder, we're going to provide you that welding certification so you can go out and you can go make $50 an hour. If you want to be a plumber, you can go out and make $250 an hour. We're trying to prepare, very similar to what MPS has done an excellent job in doing with traits and CTE model. We are trying to emulate that same system to provide students with opportunities that they want and that they believe they can be successful in life if college is not the choice that they want to take.
I've got to say that one of the things I've found is a bright spot in Milwaukee Public Schools is our college and career pathways. They just do a really nice job, and we just have seeds of programs within our schools, and we could scale them so quickly. So I added 2 high school superintendents who are going to be working with our principals and working with our colleges through our MQ partnership to be able to design even more programming for our students. Just the other day, we got a $23 million Gear Up grant to start a middle school all the way through high school and your first year post-secondary, following students, making sure they have early access. We have thousands of students who are participating in our, I think, 16 different CTE pathways that we have. We have NAEF certified programming, Project Lead the Way. We have, I think it used to be called youth options programs, where students can go directly into college, and then we pay for that college. We had 62,000 students in MPS job fairs. I mean, it's 6,200, students in job fairs. I mean, it's just like our FAFSA completion rate is one of the best, and we outpace the state at 62%. I can't tell you, 113 million in scholarships last year. I think it was our 3rd year in a row having over $100 million in scholarships for our students. So our high schools are getting the job done with those career pathways, and so I think that is actually a bright light for us, and one that we're going to grow on and try to build back upon. You may have heard me talk about grade reconfiguration within our school. We have a number of K-8 schools. I don't think our 7th and I'm a middle school expert, have spent a lot of my career at the secondary level, particularly at middle school, and our middle schoolers in 7th and 8th grade just are not getting the level of rigor and opportunity that they need to be prepared in high school. And so, I think that they could get a better opportunity in 7 through 12 schools. We have a couple of schools that are proving that, and, Obama School, the School of Languages, High School Arts, these schools have earlier grade levels in them, and so Carmen School has earlier grade levels in them. There's a number of schools that are demonstrating that you can have a 7 through 12 successfully, and kids can have all of the athletic programming, all of the career programming, all of the CTE programming, all of the rigorous AP classes, international baccalaureate classes, all of that. And so I'm starting to look at that option and talking to the community about some of our K-8 schools going to a K-6 model and a 7 through 12 model in our high schools to give them these better opportunities.
All right. In all seriousness, what does success look like for you, Dr. Robinson, in 5 years?
It's a great question, actually. We just launched a strategic plan. We created a strategic plan over the summer, and September the board approved it. So we have 4 specific goals: math, literacy, CTE, as well as special education. So the effort that we're embarking on is to close gaps, and those gaps will be measured in our strategic plan. Before, the plan was very qualitative, as I said, feels good, versus quantitative. When I arrived and I looked at our previous strategic plan, one of my mentors said to me, she says, "Terrence, you have no accountability right now." And I said, "Yeah, and that doesn't make me feel good." Okay? because I'll put it on me. Put it on me, because we get lax when we don't have anything, anything to measure our success. So I put it on myself, because I feel like if I feel it, guess who else is going to feel it? Everybody else under me. And that's what we've tried to do. So my strategic plan, if we're successful in 5 years, that's how I know we're moving the mark. How do I know right now? And there are incremental points right now, right? So in the last 2 years, we've increased our overall score by 11 points. I have no failing schools in the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District right now. Prior to that, we had 2. We have all of our secondary schools are at meets expectations or better. So we're doing some great things. So we have measures, and I know he just walked in the room. My good frat brother, Dr. Means, I'm trying to beat Tulsa. That's my target, So I have targets that Tulsa, Wauwatosa, and Waukesha, like those are my targets right now. I am really going after people who I think in the past that people have thought we weren't as good as. And that's what we're about. We're about making a difference in our district. And I think so in 5 years, our strategic plan, that's the roadmap that we've laid out, that we'll know if we're doing a good job or not for our kids.
Now I'm gonna call an audible.
Wait
Dr.
a minute
Means.
now, what does success look like for Milwaukee?
Yes, ma'am. We're gonna get to it, but I'm gonna call an audible.
It looks like
we're gonna
him
get
looking at Milwaukee Public
Dr.
Schools
Means.
and saying, I wanna be like Milwaukee Public Schools. That's what I want to see happen.
Okay.
No, but
in,
really.
But in 5 years, what will?
So
Milwaukee look
currently,
like?
I mean, I think this is a statistic everybody knows. 91% of our students on the 4th grade National Assessment of Educational Program, our black students, are not meeting grade level literacy. And we are the worst among all large urbans in the nation. I want to see that change. I'd rather be in the top 10% of states. So that's one. And then I want to see the health outcomes of our children. I don't want any more children losing their lives in Milwaukee Public Schools needlessly. That to me is a measure of success as well, that we put together the coordinated supports and helps that are supporting our families and supporting our children.
All right, thank you. And so with that, we have our third panelist, Dr. Damon Means, Superintendent of Wauwatosa School District. I know you've been busy all week long, all month long. It's great to see you. Since we're so far ahead, why don't you just tell us about yourself and how you became superintendent and give us a little bit of your background.
You don't want that story. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'll try to be succinct and try to catch up with these 2 fine scholars. My name is Damon Means. I'm a lifelong Milwaukeean, born and raised here. I grew up in the Sherman Park area, and I'm a proud graduate of Milwaukee Public Schools. I'll always represent MPS. And I guess I'm a double MPS person in that my dad was a school engineer. He was one of those people that wore the green uniforms if you were in the schools. And so Milwaukee Public Schools has a double special place in my heart because it put food on my table. Yeah. It literally put food on my table and paid for health care and college and you name it. I had teachers that impacted me throughout my time in Milwaukee Public Schools who said, don't go to school to be a lawyer, don't go to school to be something else. We need you to come back into our community and teach the next generation. And so that's what I've done. I believe that the superintendency is where you can make policy impact. I've been a superintendent now for 17 years. In 3 different districts. I was a superintendent in a place called Mequon-Thiensville, which is north of here. I was a superintendent in the state of Georgia in a place called Clark County. It's where the University of Georgia is located. And I've now been in Wauwatosa this is my 5th year, I believe it is. This is my second, I like to say it's my second tour in Wauwatosa because I was the director of human resources prior. So Dr. Harris, I know that I'm catching up again with these 2 fine scholars. I would just add this. I was privileged to be named the chair of the Closing the Achievement Gap, Promoting Success for All task force that then State Superintendent Tony Evers, before he became governor, he allowed me to be the chair of it. And so Ken's known me since I was a I had hair, I'll put it that way. Yeah. So I'll try to stay consistent with what I try to represent. I appreciate all of you being here this afternoon. I appreciate you staying associated with these community conversations, and I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of talking about our black kids not getting X, not getting Y, not getting Z. And in fact, now we have another population of our Hispanic brothers and sisters not getting the proper educational perspective that they need. I don't care whatever school district you go to. It could be my district. It could be a district now up north. We know that we look at the statistics, our kids of color are the ones who are not achieving well, and they're the ones who are suspended and disciplined more than anyone else. And so the people who are in the classrooms, the people who are controlling policy decisions for education, we just need to ask people, what are we doing? I've been part of these panels for too long where we have the same conversation and we have the same talking. I guess I pose it to you as a community. So when is enough enough? Because we're losing kids, and it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery in terms of what we have to do to do the right thing for kids. And so it's going to just take will and not talk.
Thank you much. So when it comes to accountability, we always talk about the superintendent, we talk about the teachers, we talk about the paraprofessionals, but we never really talk about the community. I'll start with Dr. Means. What do you expect from the community in relation to their public schools? Because we already see, right? We need mentoring. We need parents to be there to support, PTA, all those things. But what is it, what's the one thing that you would need from the community to support your schools in Wauwatosa?
I had a meeting, we have a group that we've created. It's called the Multi-Ethnic Parent Association, or MIPA. And it's for our families of color who advocate within our system. And we were discussing how things are not working well for some of our kids of color. And so I used to teach U.S. history. I was a history teacher. And so I said, here's the deal to these parents. I said, if I taught 3 sections of U.S. history and I had 75 kids and I gave a test, follow me guys, I give a test, and of the 75 kids that took my U.S. history test, 50 did not get a proficient score. Who failed? Who failed? And I think sometimes when we have these conversations about accountability, in the districts that I've been in that are considered to be high achieving school systems, right. I can guarantee you, the parents came in and they went to the teacher. Right. They didn't come to the superintendent. They didn't go to the principal. They didn't go to social media. They went to the teacher and they said, look, my kid failed. I know I put my work in. I had a table where my child studied. They did what they were supposed to do. Your test failed. So what are you going to do? And until a school system, I don't care if it's MPS, what's Milwaukee, Wauwatosa, until that happens, things don't change. So when I've been in a lot of North Shore school systems, I can guarantee you, I know it, those parents hold teachers accountable. And it's not the superintendent. And so when I get those calls in Wauwatosa, I'll say sometimes, time out. Have you talked to the teacher? Because the job that Brenda has, the job that Dr. Robinson has, our job is to set the conditions. Our job is to set the conditions. So we give the resources, we create the conditions for teachers to teach, and then they're supposed to teach. Then that's where the magic happens. And so if I'm the U.S. history teacher, when you want to understand what's happening in education, that's the scenario I give you. If a teacher has 75 kids and 50 of them did not pass the test, whose fault is it? And I wouldn't use the word fault, but who has the responsibility to do something else? It's not that the kids have to learn something else now. The teacher has to go back and reteach. This is not that complicated. We make it super, super and it's not that complicated. So until we get into a mode of people, but see what happens, Dr. Harris, is people say, well, the children, they don't come to school with breakfast. And, they're coming, I have worked with kids who don't come to school with breakfast. They don't have home lives that we want, but they're smart. All they're looking for is somebody to teach them. But don't fall back on the fact that they don't have breakfast because you didn't teach the subject. That's not on them. That's on you. And so until we start talking in those terms, now what you need to hold the three of us accountable for is to give our teachers the conditions.
Correct.
Pay them
Correct.
appropriately. Make sure they have good materials. Make sure they don't have 40 kids in one classroom. Make sure that they have low class sizes. That's our job. But if we do our job, then when I was in the classroom, I taught. If that happened to me when I was teaching and I had taught 75 kids and 50 of them didn't pass the test, I said, what did I do wrong? I didn't go to, well, they do live in 53206. Oh, no, come on now. Teach. Do your job. Because I know Milwaukee has the resources. Los Angeles has the resources. Now, do we need to do more? Of course. But that, I think, I love your question, but I want to always just leave the community with that scenario.
Anything to add?
I got to steal that scenario because I think he's 100% right. I know as a former principal, I would always pull my failure report when it was report card time, and it was very frustrating when you have high numbers of students who are failing in specific classrooms, and then you would say, and then you'd see the teacher like say, oh, my class is hard. No, you failed these kids. You literally failed them. You're not benefiting the situation. So I agree with that 100%. I think though, as far as the community is concerned, what do we need from them? We need support. Support looks different. Okay.
Right. What does that look like?
So support could be volunteering. Support could be when we call you, come help us.
Okay.
When we need volunteers and tutors, come do that. A lot of our parents have the skills to do that. We can't just assume they can't do it. And so we have to be inviting though, because I think also after COVID, this is my experience, and I'm not sure if anybody else shares this. Our schools kind of closed up a little bit, and we never really opened back up. And so that's why the volunteer rate, and parents always saying, well, they said we can't come. Who said you can't come? What do you mean? But after COVID, I think a lot of schools took the advantage. Oh, it's a good time to keep them out. No. It doesn't work like that. Wow. We need parents in our schools. We need volunteers in our schools. We need support. And that's a broad term. It looks different. It could be different. Each school needs a different level of support.
Right.
Okay, depending on how the school looks. So, I'm going to speak with that broad term because it does look different. It depends on the situation. Okay. So, support is a situational. I'm using it situational right now because the school on the west side of my district that's closer to New Berlin may need a different level of support versus the one that's in West Milwaukee. It looks different.
Okay. So when you talk about support, and I can only use MPS because I did a lot of mentoring in MPS. Part of the issue, and tell me, can we fix this in any district? We ask, especially of black men, to be in the schools. We already know that it's predominantly women teaching our children. But the problem is that the men that would go are the men that have jobs. So you're asking us to take off of our work for our families to come to school at a convenient time for you, 11 o'clock in the morning, which is absolutely ridiculous because I'm at work. But then we get bashed. You don't support your kids. We don't see more black men, more black organizations in schools. And it's a catch-22. If I show up, it's great, but I can mentor now because I don't have a job, or I don't come. How can we fix that? And especially in a place like MPS, but Dr.
I just want to be very clear, because I don't think I answered your question, Dr. Harris. What we need from the community is for somebody to ask the question, if we have teachers who are teaching, I'm going to just use a simple equation, 75 kids and 50 fail, who's reteaching to the children? That's what I need from the community. I don't need any more, any less. And frankly, I don't need people to come in to mentor. I don't need any of that. I just need somebody who's going to come to a board meeting 3 times a year. And it would be powerful if it was a group of black men and women in your work clothes. So when my daddy came up to my school in his green uniform, it sent a message that was still a working man. Somebody needs to come to these meetings and just say, hold up. There's a bunch of people teaching children and they're not learning. Who's responsible for the reteaching? Please let us know. We'll come back for a report and then just leave. Because what I've seen is that when that type of community engagement happens, it does send a shockwave through the system because it's abnormal. It doesn't normally happen. And just stay consistent. You don't have to be at every meeting. That's all I need. I don't need mentoring because what that's going to do, Dr. Harris, is that sends a message to the system that we can't continue to ignore those kids.
Correct.
A couple of really simple things. Employers can be part of the solution. So employers can give days off to families and black men and, their employees to go in and volunteer in the schools. We've seen the mayor step up and do Adopt a School now with all of his departments required to go into schools. So he's going to release city personnel to come into our Milwaukee Public Schools. I'm super pleased about that. It's part of our new Kids Cabinet initiative. I sit on the mayor's cabinet, and this is something I asked him to do, and he's been a great partner. So that's one thing, and so he's leading the way for other employers to be able to do that. One thing that I think is another area, it doesn't always have to be during the school day. We have another bright spot in Milwaukee Public Schools is our rec programs. And so Milwaukee Rec is just a gem. And so we have twilight programs, we have programs in the weekends, we have programs in the evenings, we have athletic events, can be coaches, you can be mentors through our new mentoring program with the new Gear Up grant. There's Mentoring Milwaukee is doing some great work. There's all kinds of ways to volunteer in a child's life that way, big brothers, big sisters, et cetera. And then just personally, what I need as superintendent and new to Milwaukee is for y'all just to adopt me as a Milwaukeean. And
Okay.
I know that trust is earned, but I'm on a timeline here and I got urgent matters to deal with, and I don't have time to earn the broken trust that was with the former administrations of a decade, 2 decades. I need y'all to trust me. I have hard decisions that I need to bring to the community. I need to wrestle with those with you, and we need to make them together. We've got to right-size this district. We got to cut some money out of our budget so that we can give our kids what they need during the school day, get rid of some of the waste that we have and put it right back into kids. These are hard decisions, and I'm going to get a lot of pushback, and I'm going to need the community to be behind me on it. I can't have people fight me on these things. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I think what I really need from the community is to trust my 36 years of experience. I will always be honest and transparent with you. I will give you the data and show you my best thinking, and take your feedback and adjust it as I have to. But we have some really hard decisions to make together around merging and closing schools and about cutting some of the budget out so that we can get the funding to our kids.
All right, thank you much. Any final thoughts, Dr. Casellas? Anything you want to leave
Well,
us
I'm
with?
appreciative to my colleagues. I hope that I can lend on your wisdom, especially as longtime Milwaukeean, and knowing the system and having the experience here. So really glad to be up here with you and honored to be up here with you. And thank you, Ken, for continuing to elevate the voices of the community and making sure that we're all held accountable. And thank you all for showing up today on a Saturday. I know you have families and other things to do, and you're part of the solution. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Dr. Robinson?
So before I close, I want to address your organization, your comment real quick. I just want to say this. I think we have to still try and create a place for organizations and groups to come into our schools, okay? Being a part of a couple of different organizations, having a job, I still would come and volunteer. So I think that needs to happen. I've already tried to put out to Greek letter organizations that we need to be involved in our schools. As far as the panel up here, I want to thank my colleagues in this work for the comments. A lot of things that both of them are doing, I'm trying to steal them. I'm trying to be like them when I grow up. I'm not even joking because MPS has some outstanding, every time I'm talking to organizations and different groups, specifically around college and career readiness, they always say, you got to talk to MPS. Just talked to Aurora the other day, you got to go talk to MPS. So we definitely have to communicate and figure out what they're doing. My mentor, my Milwaukee mentor to my left right here, my good fraternity brother, I call him about every single thing, big and small, and he always answers the phone, and so I'm really very grateful for his work as well. I don't believe that everybody in here knew that a black man was leading the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District. Okay? And that's a doggone shame. All right? I've been here, I'm on my 3rd year. All right? 3rd year. That means I haven't done a good enough job in getting the word out outside of my community. Okay? Huh? I'm the very first. Very first. In fact, and I'll just be very transparent. Transparency is one of the words that I value. Transparency and vulnerability. They're important to me. When I walked into the office on my first day, I saw all of the pictures on the wall of the past superintendents. And I asked myself, am I in the right place right now? Felt like the Twilight Zone. But it's something that I have a lot of honor in knowing that I am the first and the first of many, because the district is changing. When I tell people I'm the superintendent of West Allis, West Milwaukee, their head does this. You say, oh, what, West Allis? Like, I still get that. So it's all good. It's all good, people. When I know y'all was shocked, all right? I'm here. I'm here to stay, too. But come see what we're doing over there. Okay. You have an open invitation. Matter of fact, we have board meeting Monday night. Come see me. But guess what happens when you show up? You know what the boys gonna do? Do you know him? Do you know her? Because they think we all know each other. They do. I get that a lot. And I say, and you know what I say? Oh yeah, that's my cousin. No, but seriously, thank you guys for having me today.
All right, thank you much. Dr. Means?
Brendan and Terrence is doing really good work, but I just want you to know that over the last 18 months, we've lost 2 black superintendents in Wisconsin because of political pressure and just people pushing them out. So when you hear Brendan and Terrence say support them, they mean these are rare. It's rare for black people to be in the superintendency role because you are a CEO of a very important community and business function. So please support them and all of us that's in these really critical and, I would say, dangerous roles. I believe black kids and kids of color are brilliant. Not smart, I think they're brilliant. To be a disruptive student, you need to be smart. I like to always tell people, to be a criminal, you have to be extra smart. You cannot be smart and be a criminal. And so I believe that we have brilliant kids. The work happens in the classroom. The job of the superintendent is to create the conditions so they have the materials, they have the compensation, they have the true conditions to do what they need to do. After that, friends, we need you, and again, we don't need you to come to every meeting. I need you to come to a meeting 3 times a year and appoint somebody to say, Reuben Harpo. How many of you all know Reuben Harpo? Reuben will always say the African proverb of, how are the children? If you're not asking in the community, how are the children? And that's all you need to, if you just designate somebody to come to a board meeting and to ask the question to the superintendent and the board, how are the children? And then ask, how are the children that look like me? And then leave. That's all you have to do. But that's not happening. And so when Dr. Harris asked the question, what we need from the community, that's all I need. I don't need I don't need a company to say, we're going to come in and do a day of service. I don't need your day of service, because the day of service actually makes you feel better, because that's still not helping my kids learn how to read. They still can't read. Now, you feel good. You have a nice photo op that you have in your annual meeting to say, and we donated 25 hours towards this school, and we gave them 1,000. Keep your money. Find somebody who's going to come to the meeting and ask the Reuben Harpo question, how are the children? Because we know that we have now had, as a lifelong Milwaukeean, I've seen generations of young people where we've said, well, we've got to do something about the kids. And now those kids are grandparents in some cases. They're literally grandparents. We have to make sure, this is real simple. When I was down in Georgia, you know, they love Georgia Bulldog football. And so this always, I'll use a football analogy here. This comes down to blocking and tackling. And the team that can just tackle somebody cleanly and block cleanly, they typically win games. The people who kind of, you see what your professional team is doing. They can't block anybody. So the Packers can't block anybody. Now I need Mr. Wallace to give us more deeper analysis on why that's happening, but we'll get to that later. Friends, we need you to hold school systems accountable on how the children are doing. Please remember Reuben, because we're losing our elders. And I would just ask you to remember that elder question, how are the children? You know the children aren't doing well, so just hold us accountable by just showing up. That's all we need.
Thank you much.
Yep.
Appreciate it.